Are you ready to change your habits, sculpt your destiny, and light up your path to greatness? Welcome to the epicenter of transformation. This is Mick Unplugged. We'll help you identify your because, so you can create a routine that's not just productive, but powerful. You'll embrace the art of evolution, adapt strategies to stay ahead of the game, and take a step toward the extraordinary. So let's unleash your potential. Now, here's Mick.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Mick Unplugged, where we go deep into your because, that thing that fuels and powers you to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And today's guest is an extraordinary actress whose career has flourished across film, television, and theater. With a powerful presence and compelling performance, she's graced us in critically acclaimed films like The Handmaid's Tale, Saw 3, and she's even had TV series like Schitt and The Strain. She's the co-founder of the Obsidian Theater Company, and she's championed diverse voices and stories that have left us all compelled, mesmerized, and inspired. Ladies and gentlemen, get out of your seats and give a big round of applause for the versatile, the dynamic, the incomparable Miss Kim Roberts. Miss Kim Roberts, how are you today?
Hello, Mick. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
It is an honor to have you here, Kim. And, I'm truly honored that you're here just because the person that you are, right? Like, not many people can cover the different mediums in entertainment, right? So film, theater, movies, plays, even production. How'd you start, Kim? Like, what got you into this realm?
Honestly, just because I liked it. As a kid, we used to put on plays for our parents to entertain them. I joined every drama club in school, but, all throughout all the years. I just loved the theater. I loved acting. I loved camaraderie of being with other artistic people. And so it was just always the thing I did for fun. When I went to university, I planned a very serious career for myself. And yet I kept being drawn back to the theater, the after-school theater show, the extracurricular theater clubs. That would always get my full focus, whereas, my classes would get my partial focus. And it just ended up that, it came calling and I took the leap. And it was a good thing that I did, I guess.
It is definitely a good thing because you have entertained us for such a long time and you're so powerful in everything that you do. And so I'm just really thankful that you're taking some time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with us. Speaking of your busy schedule, Get That Hope. It's out now. Tell us about that latest project.
Well, we're actually in previews right now, preview performances for Get That Hope. I'm here in Stratford, Ontario, loving this beautiful city. And the show itself is just phenomenal. Audiences are jumping to their feet with ovations as soon as we're done. So that's always a good feeling. And they're really seeming to enjoy the show. It's a beautiful play written by Andrea Scott. And it centers on a Jamaican family based in Little Jamaica in Toronto. It's an area we call Little Jamaica. It's the Oakwood and Vaughan area. And I live very close to that neighborhood myself. So it's actually kind of close to my heart. And it's a play with a lot of humor, a lot of heart. It's kind of what happens over the course of a day's celebration in this family's home. And like any big celebration, there are always tensions and there are always joys and there's lots of everything in between. It's a beautiful play.
That's awesome. And so it kind of hits with you personally then, right? Because your dad is Jamaican, right?
My dad was Jamaican. Yes, he's passed now.
Right. Yeah. So Jamaican heritage. So is that what drew you to the play initially?
Actually, no, just the good writing. I read the script and it had me moved. It had me laughing. It had me crying. And it surprised me in many ways, And so I just, there's nothing like a good script to draw an actor. I'm like, yes, I want to play that character. I want to be a part of this show. It's a good piece of work. And then, in the rehearsals, just as these characters have evolved, under the artistic direction of Andre Sills, who is doing such a phenomenal job with the show. It's really rounded out, it's become even fuller than I could have imagined. It's jumped right off the page. And it's the kind of show where everybody can relate, whether you're, Caribbean descent or not, you can relate to something in the show because we're talking about human themes, about family themes, about things that we're all going through at one point or another in our lifetimes, Yeah.
That's awesome. And just like in life, right, preparing for roles has its unique challenges. What's the challenge that you've had to face with preparing for your role and Get That Hope?
Challenge. That's an interesting question. Honestly, probably just getting that accent down, getting that Jamaican accent to be very authentic. I mean, I am the descendant of a Jamaican, so I think I'm pretty good. But it's like I really invested in wanting to make sure that my accent was on point. And also, I think just finding my own storyline, my own through lines with each of the characters that I'm up against. I play Margaret White, who is the mother and matriarch in this family, and there's a lot going on. Everybody's got their own thing happening in this play. And for Margaret, the real question is, yes, I have my own thing, but also how do I relate to everything that my family is going through? Because as the mother, you are always kind of you're watching out for your kids, you're watching out for your partner, you're making sure the family stays together, you're worried about everybody's stuff. Whereas, people might be in their own little worlds worried about their own things. Mama's got it all. So, yeah, it's really been a journey of figuring out how I feel about the other characters and how I'm invested in them. And, but that's the beauty of doing this work, right? You get to flesh that out and play with it until you have something that's really full, which I think we really have accomplished.
That's right. That's right. So throughout your career, you've worked with numerous talented actors, actresses. Reflecting on your career, is there a moment or experience that stands out that like truly impacted your career or transformed your career?
Well, early on in my career, I had the blessing of working with Maya Angelou on Down in the Delta, which was her directorial debut. And I mean, that cast was stellar. I mean, Alfre Woodard, Wesley Snipes, Esther Roll, I'll call it Al Freeman Jr. I mean, the list is endless. The cast was phenomenal. And it was such a prime experience for me to get to see these seasoned actors of color. They have a lifetime of stories and experience between them. Esther Roll, kind of adopted me. She called me Jezebel, but it was a pet name.
Oh, that's nice.
I took her to Niagara Falls and we just spent some really quality time together. Loved her very much. Yeah, and I just got to really see how they were professional and gracious and so very talented, and also I worked with Julie Andrews and James Garner a few years later. And again, I got to see how these big stars who could really, command anything they wanted were so humble and so warm and welcoming to others. They were brilliant at what they did. They had their, they were prepared. They came to set and did their jobs brilliantly. But they were gracious and kind human beings and very generous with their time and very inviting to be around. And so I think for me, that was a great lesson as to how I want to conduct myself in this industry and also as to what it took to really have longevity and to make it. You do have to have your work done. You have to be sure you're prepared. But there's the other aspect of also just being a gracious and generous performer with the other people you're working with.
That's amazing. And so speaking of performance and character development, what's your process, right? Like, how do you really prepare for a role to make sure that you're portraying a convincing character? Because I'm going to be honest with you, Kim, I think this is where you shine, especially in live theater, because everyone can't do that. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody can't. No, I
don't. That's the job. You're supposed to do that. What do you mean? Your character comes from within. Yes, you have a script and you've got to merge your knowledge of humanity with this person in front of you on the page. But whatever you're building has to come from your own experiences, from your own reference points. And I think that alone makes it organic and real because you're starting from a real place. And then you infuse this character with the things that while being true to what the writer has put on the page, to the vibe for that character. I remember early on in my career one of my teachers saying that an actor is an everyman, right? Or every woman, but you actually do have to be able to be anybody that you see walking on down the street, any station in life, any perspective. So being an actor is really a lifelong pursuit of understanding humanity. And I think the more you do that, the more versatile you are able to be in your roles. And so I hope that I have been able to accomplish that to a certain extent.
You have, and more, that I can promise you, one of the things that I also appreciate about Miss Kim Roberts is that you're a champion for diversity and representation, right? In your industry for sure. And you've been a powerful advocate for diversity in the arts. How has this advocacy shaped your career, and what do you want to see the arts doing more of?
I mean, by virtue of being a Black woman, I almost don't have a choice but to be an advocate. It just kind of comes with the territory. I did help to create theater company many years ago. It was founded in my home, in my living room, Obsidian Theater Company, which is Canada's premier diverse theater company, spearheaded by Alison Seeley-Smith, Philip Aiken, Janet Sears. It was really a great endeavor to bring focus to the fact that we're here and we are talented and we can do a lot of things aside from what you were seeing. 20 odd years ago when the theater company was formed, there weren't a lot of roles. I mean, there weren't a lot of Black people at Stratford. This year, 25% of the acting company is diverse. 4 of the 12 plays are led by African Canadian women. It's pretty exciting when I think back to 20 years ago when maybe there was one person, one Sandy Ross, who represented all of us everywhere, So Obsidian was formed to start performing works and showing our capabilities to the world. And I think that has allowed us to assimilate into other forms much more easily. In the film and television realm, I remember when I started acting, I was actually the first Black woman to speak in a Canadian national commercial. So you'd see Black people in commercials, but we'd always be in the background. We would never actually be the leads or have the words. So the first time, and I always wondered why people referred to that commercial as for Benylin cough syrup and would introduce me as this woman who does commercials for years, long after I was doing serious theater and film. And it was much later, that I came to find out that that was the first time a Black woman had been featured in a Canadian spot. So all the folks recognized it and remembered it, It was a big deal for them to see that happen. Luckily and happily, that's changing. I think it can change a lot more. And as we get behind the chairs, we get into the writers' rooms, the directors' chairs, the producing chairs, then we get to tell our stories from a much more organic perspective. So we're not just the drug dealers or the prostitutes on Top Cops, which when I started acting was really the biggest job that was out there. Or, I know for me, my own personal ghetto was playing the nurse. For many, many years, they just wanted me to be the nurse, and whatever thing I was cast in, I was the nurse. And, we're a lot more. We're fully fledged, fully rounded people. And just as everyone's not just the Black community, it's all communities. We live in a world with many different points of view and many different perspectives. And it's about time that we're reflecting that in the shows that we're watching. So yeah, it's a continuous journey. I don't want to say battle because it's a journey, but we are, we're creating our stories and telling our stories, and hopefully that makes room for more, because with the successes of these stories, people understand that we do have value and we have something to offer. And they
love it. I love it. And so I'm going to say this because I know Kim won't brag on herself like I'm about to. One of the greatest voiceover talents in the world is Miss Kim Roberts.
Oh my goodness.
I'm excited to talk with you, but I can promise you when my nephews hear this, they're going to be like, Uncle Mickey, wait a second. I know that voice. Paw Patrol and everything, right? So voice talent, voice work. What inspires you to do that? And how is that like? Because it's one, I don't know, because I'm assuming you're standing behind a screen and you're not interacting. You don't see a lot of facial movements and body gestures, right? So how do you embrace the voice talent that you do?
Well, I love voice acting. First of all, it is so much fun. It's really you in a studio with the words. So you get to, the way animation works is they will draw the character after you have voiced the character. So they will draw to your voice. So I get to be completely free and imaginative and just go on the ride. And then the animators do great work in drawing, the motions and whatnot to match what you said. And it all comes from the writing, of course, which on Paw Patrol is great. I mean, they have really good script writers, and I find the episodes to be quite enjoyable myself. And it's a hoot to play Mayor Goodway. I mean, she's an iconic character. She's one of the few Black leading ladies in animation. That's another field where they weren't really drawing Black characters, and a lot of times they weren't being voiced by us either. It's a whole different world. So you'd have a lot of animated the characters of color that were out there weren't even being voiced by actors of color. So it's a real honor to be able to be the voice of Mayor Goodway, who was one of the few Black women with something to say in this realm. Yeah. And so, tell your nephew that Mayor Goodway says, hey.
I will do that. Reverend Brooks, Isaac, hey, you heard it, right? You heard it here. So it's 2024, and in the world, AI is becoming a big thing. And I think what's funny is, in the arts, you've been playing around with AI for 20, 30 years, right? But from a theater perspective, how do you see this digital world impacting theater in a good or bad way?
Well, I have to say, as an actor, I don't really know much about AI because it really doesn't impact what I do. I'm sure that all the people behind the knobs and buttons do things with it, but I just do my job. And, I know there's a lot of fear really in the community about what AI can do in terms of taking over the role of the actor in film and animation, et cetera. So to that extent, I feel that theater might actually be the last bastion of non-AI. It's the one place where
Right.
you have to be human. You go there, you see the person, they're actually standing in front of you, actually saying the words of the moment. There's no retakes, there's no cut.
Hmm.
It's live, and that might mean a resurgence of the popularity of theater, for all we know. In terms of getting the human interaction that we have right now. Because there's a lot of things that I think can be done with AI. They're simulating voices, they're simulating actors and people, so they can eventually create their movies without us. But I don't really know how they would do that in a theatrical setting. I still feel like theater, you got to be there in the flesh.
No, agree. And that's what I was hoping you were saying, because that's where I wanted to go. Is I think it's actually going to drive us back to doing more of that in theater live performance type things. Because I remember as a kid, we would go do those things. Right. And then, when I had kids, you didn't see a lot of playhouses around like we used to see when I was growing up. So I'm excited at the potential of live theater being a big prominent thing again. So I'm excited about that.
Me
really
too.
Excited.
I started my career in theater. My whole youth was spent doing theater. The last number of years have been predominantly film and television, but this return to the stage has been so exciting and invigorating for me, and Stratford is really, the Stratford Festival is a beautiful, wonderful place to be creative because you're surrounded by people who are at the top of their game in the creative fields, right? And so, it's reignited the love for the stage for me, being there with the audience live. Like there's an adrenaline rush, you're interacting in real time with people and you're sharing something with them that's making them feel something. You're moving them. And so to have that interaction, it's such a beautiful thing. And I missed it. So I'm not adverse to more theater in the world, more good theater happening for sure.
I love it. So any advice for anyone that's trying to emerge into the arts? Any advice for that young actor, actress that's trying to break into whether it's film, theater, voice talent?
Well, a couple things. Work hard, first of all. I know Kim Kardashian got beat up for saying it, but you have to. It looks easy to a lot of people, but it's not. I work all the time. My day is never over. Never over, 24/7. I'm sending emails. I'm doing interviews. I'm working on my script. I'm doing publicity. There's always something to be doing in this work. And, the more fortunate you are in being busy or successful, the more work there's going to be. So you really have to hone a good work instinct, work on your craft, make sure that you are at the top of your game so that you're ready for whatever opportunities come your way. And I really feel that representation matters. And I'm not talking about Black representation. I'm talking about good agents and managers and publicists. It makes a difference. Make sure that you've got the best representatives that you can have. And never be afraid to change. Never be afraid to switch up. It is a business. And we become loyal and we become grateful that this agent is taking you on or whatever. But if you're not seeing your career go where you want it to go, find out which agents are making that happen for their clients and try and get with those agents or those managers. You really do have to have a business mindset while being a creative person. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's not a simple game at all. It requires many, many facets of your being. It requires a business mind, a creative mind, and talent. So,
There you go. I love it. So Get That Hope is in previews now. It's going to run through end of September, I believe?
September 29th. We open on August 10th and we run through to September 29th. And you do want to get your tickets because it's a wonderful play. You're going to really enjoy it.
Totally agree. Well, Ms. Kim, I totally appreciate you spending some time with us here today. Where can people follow you, find you? What do you want people to know?
I'm on Instagram at Ms. MS Kim Roberts. I'm on Threads, also Ms. Kim Roberts. I'm on X, Kim Roberts 1. I'm on Facebook still, for the older folks. Kim Roberts page. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me. I'm all over the place.
Just Google Kim Roberts and you'll find her, I promise.
There you go.
Well, Ms. Kim, again, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And I will make sure I have links to everything that you were doing in the show notes in the description. So for all the followers, make sure that you're supporting Ms. Kim and also supporting the play as well that's coming out.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, Mick.
You got it. And for all the listeners, remember, your because is your superpower. Go unleash it.
Thanks for listening to Mick Unplugged. We hope this episode helps you take the next step toward the extraordinary and launches a revolution in your life. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast, and be sure to check us out on YouTube at Mick Unplugged. Remember, stay empowered, stay inspired, and stay unplugged.